want to do that.
Yeah.
And then you choose a small repeatable piece that you memorize and speed up.
Okay.
And then try another piece.
So
and once you've memorized it, you can tell yourself, okay, I never have to look at that tab again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because you want to. It's just
it's true.
And well.
Plus, even getting away, just listening to myself is the main thing as well. Just hearing the melody notes, because you wrote the melody up here.
Yes.
And then get into it. So what is so you want me to, for all the things that I'm doing, just keep pushing that tempo more and more and more with little loops?
But it has to be with the right kind of timing going on, without any left hand.
Yeah.
That's why I usually try to do slides and hammer-ons and pull-offs after getting the rolls going.
I see. On
open strings or on licks that don't have a lot of that. But the fact is, when Earl does that, or he almost always is doing that slide with the third string, and just do that much.
Which part is the other one?
Okay.
Oh, then you, okay.
Let's just try putting a chord down and doing the same thing, like G and then C. And don't worry about which strings you're hitting. Just make the chord and do a roll, and do you know, TITM and then the other one.
But I see what you're doing.
Your right hand is doing the same thing. You're putting a chord down there. This is kind of to break the connection when you learn, and you're learning both hands at once, and they're sort of, they're not independent. In other words, when you move your right hand, you want, or you're telling your left hand it has to do the same thing. But the fact is it doesn't. It can make a new chord. It can do something else. The right hand can continue to do what it was doing before. And
I think I see what you're saying.
well, let's just try it with alternating thumb, like. Doesn't matter. Let's keep going. the same reverse roll, and notice when I do it in G, or I'm coming down to the third string. How about if I went, same roll, okay, do that one. Okay, now do this. Or,
Do it going down to the D?
yes. There was one other tiny thing that happened, which is the index finger moved over as well. When the thumb moved over the fourth, the index finger. Yes. The right hand doesn't care if we're coming down on those two or those two. It's the same roll. It may feel a little difference at first because we're hitting different fingers. The hand is doing the same rhythmical deal. And
are my fingers flopping around more to get speed, or does that come with time? Because I notice yours are kind of like right there, and mine are kind of like flop, flop.
well, some people move their fingers further than others. If to play fast, if you're moving them further, you'll have to move them faster.
Yeah.
Ultimately, your best speed will be by reducing the little circles your fingers make. But that'll happen.
It doesn't matter if my hand starts sliding to the side, or should I just keep it as much as I can like this?
Well, you want your tension light,
Okay.
and
Yeah, well that's good to know, because there's sometimes when I have so much tension that I can feel that I'm just...
no, that's not good. That'll hurt the tone, and the tension in your hand doesn't help. So yeah, you want to. But you know what I'm doing. This feels the same as. Well, I can't do that quite exactly. So I'm just, see how all the stuff you get going, the right hand is totally doing the same thing, and that's how I get it speeded up and run. So I'm using two rolls, and I'm trying now. I'm having a little melody in there, but I'm still my goal was to get a little more speed on, so I just did the first line over and over. The thing is definitely to make sure that there are no rhythmic or there's no shorter or longer measures.
Okay.
And
that's the one thing with practicing a lot, is that I practice that mistake so much. I gotta go back again and go slow and get rid of the memory that's already in my fingers.
Yeah, well, remember that the left hand thing, with rare exceptions, is adding a note but not influencing the time. The note the left hand has to add with the hammer on and pull off is strictly an extra little beat tucked in there.
Yep.
And without disturbing that pulse. Um, and tapping your foot is a good idea, or going through and marking the first of each pair with a little accent. And the whole syncopation thing, it happens in the second note of each pair. You know, whether it's equally spaced from the first or what's before or behind it. Usually a syncopation means you're making the first note of each pair a little longer and a little louder. Louder is optional, but the syncopation or swing feeling. This is when you got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and about all the same. These are the first of each pair. Those are even no matter what. With syncopation, it's almost like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's very strong syncopation. Now it's going to go away. It's gone. Now they're all the same intensity and distance apart. And here it comes. It's the way of projecting the rhythm, I think, is to syncopate a little. I like to do it when I'm playing alone. I recommend, in fact, the word I use, and there are a couple of websites. I'm thinking of this fellow named, a friend of mine whose parents lived up here, and he lives out in California now, but he used to come visit his folks and always drop in for a visit or a lesson. His name is Paul Hawthorne. And
I've met him over the internet. In fact, he recommended that I get you as a teacher.
Oh, really? Well, he had some interesting ideas, some of which I've co-opted, which is one, to think a word that has the right rhythm in it. And what the word I often use is Chattanooga. So I'm going Chattanooga. And if I can sort of hear that emphasis, we don't say Chattanooga, you know, it's maybe there's different words for different kinds of licks. Like the word Kalamazoo is 4 syllables, but it's got the first and last. Chattanooga has 4 syllables, but it's first and third. You know, so maybe it's good to have some word clues that remind you of the rhythm that's built into the others aren't springing to mind, but they may
Investigate or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be on the second syllable. For maybe they're, you know, yeah. I mean, there's certainly words to find that can do that and that are easy enough to recall, and so you make a mental link between those things. And the other, the rhythmic, I said tap your foot, and you did start to do it. What I try to do is, for different roles, I try to, well, maybe it's just even thinking about it does the job, but what I'm thinking is, I'm going to tap my foot, and I'm going to attach a string to my foot, and every time that moves, the important finger is gonna play. So if I have my middle finger, same roll, but it's on different strings. Second and third. Third and fourth. Third and fifth. Second and fifth. Second and fourth. And that's practicing with one roll, and you get that up to speed, and then you try to integrate it with others, and it's going to be good to continue with songs, but I really want to work on getting each roll internalized and in the form of a word rather than as separate letters. In other words, as a unit, instead of saying, well, what's the third, what's the next note? As the roll ought to be a little subroutine that executes. When you think of it and its word and what finger begins it, it ought to happen like speed reading. And in the process, to keep looking away from the tab paper. And I know you're hearing what you play, but you need more of attention on the hearing and less on the seeing, because the music is not what you see; it's what we hear.
That's right. I see what you're saying. Well, that's why when we went Skype, it was really helpful, and I was very excited because I couldn't see what you're doing. If you notice, I'm often observing, and even after the videotape, I watch. But when we Skyped, it was forcing me to hear, and you said, "All right, do it like this," and I'm like, "Oh, how do I do this?" But then I forced myself to do it.
Yeah, and more and more relying on the ear. This is just to get the ball rolling, get the ideas going in there, but this is, it's raw material or a suggestion. It's not a finished product. I didn't labor and sweat over those arrangements. The goal is to get a way on paper of using those particular roles we're talking about. And so this is not a finished, totally finished product. It's worth learning, but it's not the end of the day for this tune. You know, we want to maybe use this as a test bed, and other roles we're going to find, we figure out a way to plug them in there. And have you done more with the Foggy Mountain Breakdown roll?
Being shifted or?
This is the shifted we were doing, so no, I mean the straight one.
Yeah, I've been working on that. Well, what I've been doing is just going back and forth and doing but that's what I'm doing.
Does that feel comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay, then crank it up a little.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's not as comfortable down here.
I shifted to the other one. But you can feel it's the same right hand roll doing. So when Earl goes, it's pretty clear what it's the same hammer on, except it just moved over, that's all.
No, you're keeping it.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, okay, right, it doesn't matter, of course it doesn't.
I mean, you could go. Very few people do, but a lot of people go. And Earl might go using those fingers, or he might go. Jim Mills. I think he's pulling off from one place from ring to index instead of from ring to middle or that way. Some people use their little finger for chords, where others use. That part's not such a big deal. In fact, you don't want to make such a big deal out of any little detail unless it's an essential detail. But no, I mean almost any detail. You know, you take what you want. I guess there are some really essential things, but largely you can change any note or two, and the identity of the tune won't change. You'll still hear the melody, you'll still hear the rhythm, the chords. I still remember, you know, when they were talking about, well, the analogy was made, a huge data set that of medical data or something that defined a patient, and frankly, I'm remembering the OJ trial, and somebody said, but the data got messed up and everything, and somebody said, well, you take a photograph that has 5 million pixels in it, and that's what you get from a camera these days. Okay, take away 100 of them, and any 100, can you still recognize any 1,000 of them? Unless they're right in one area, you know. An average random 1,000 out of 5 million, you would maybe notice a little graininess in the photographs.
True.
You know, take out 100,000 data points, you could probably still recognize the person. Because there's 9/10 of it is still there, you know, or maybe no 5 million. It would be well a whole lot more than that.
Sure.
But so, in a way, we want to say that the notes are not so important that I can't change them. Of course I can change them. So how important could they have been in the first place? You know, no one note is representing the whole tune. That's the collaboration of all, and the rhythm and the chord tunes and stuff. So don't worry about one note. In fact, the rhythm has to be when we're playing for square dances, they don't care what tune we're playing. They don't care if we make mistakes in the melody. What they want is that rhythm. It has to continue pulse along. That's what the listener is grabbing onto to follow us, is that rhythm. And if we have a lapse, he's gonna shake and wonder, am I right? Where am I? You know. So it's really a lot of what we do is directed to the listener. And that's why we lead. Why are we leading to? You know, if I just play. And no warning, of course, I played it too loud and everything, but there was no indication I was going to change. It's like you're riding in a car, and all of a sudden, ding! You have to grab on. You have no idea it's coming. So the syncopation, I think, helps the listener, and a little of it, enough to help without sinking into triplet time, and then making sure we get across the measure lines in time, and if it's a new roll in that measure, then it's got to have that same intensity and the same tempo.